The brain thinks the merger is also a place of experience, memory, feeling, and thinking ability to give birth to ideas and actions. Nerve myelination of the brain take place in sequence, starting from the primitive brain, the limbic brains, and brain thought. Neural pathways are more frequently used to make more myelin thicken, increasingly thicker myelin, the faster the nerve impulses, or signals travel along nerves. I believe our borders should be open, but if that is not politically acceptable for now, Europe should at least open up a legal route for people from developing countries to come work here. Over time, hopefully, we can move to a position where borders are completely open. Persuading skeptics won't be easy. Traffic circulation was another major problem. The widest streets in these two neighborhoods were only 5 meters wide, the narrowest were only 1 or 2 meters wide. Wagons, carriages and carts could barely move through the streets. The center of the city was also a cradle of discontent and revolution between 1830 and 1848. 7 armed uprisings and revolts had broken out in the center of Paris. We found later on there are hundreds of genes that are differently expressed. So if you get in a mutation, you know polymorphism once in a million. Here, just the motherly launching just hundreds of genes in one shot, and it changes them in a very stable way that you can look at the old rat and you can say whether it was licked or not, but you can also save by behavior. I want you to look inside the bomb calorimeter inside here. You can see that there's a silver bucket, water goes all in here, and this is actually the bomb is the smaller silver cylinder. What you do is put your fuel sample in there, then these 2 electrodes are connected to the bomb. Biologically, the brain is prepared to be shaped by experience. It's expecting the experiences that a young child has to literally influence the formation of its circuitry. It's built into our biology. The interaction between genetics and experience that shapes brain architecture is embedded in a reciprocal relationship, the relationships that children have with the adults in their lives. Energy can be described as the ability to do work where work is the movement of matter, when a force is applied to it. A closed system is a system in which no matter or energy is allowed to enter or leave. The first law of thermodynamics tells us that the amount of energy within an ecosystem is constant, it doesn't change. An open system, on the other hand, allows stuff to come in and go out. Most of these parents think this can benefit their children's language learning, but actually, kids will get confused when their parents use different languages from each other to describe the same object. If one parent sticks to one language and the other one sticks to another language, their children will not be confused anymore. Different colors represent different food types, so that people can determine what to eat when they need some certain types of nutrient. The responsibility to label food properly on the packages is on the retailers, thus consumers can be aware of food with less salt or less fat. This system makes it easier for consumer to make decisions. Affordable rent is also an elusive right around Australia. We have very low rental vacancies. We see high turnover as landlords want to maximize their profits in tight market, and we see less long-term or lifelong rental, as we see in other countries and other economies. We can conclude that Alaskan natives are losing hold of their communities, cultural identities, and most importantly, their childhoods. So you can see how serious the issue is. Plus, rather than making a living for themselves, they are depending on public services and subsidies. They have lost control of and responsibility for their economy and governing institutions. Salary plus commission sales compensation plans are possibly the most common plans used today. Organizations use salary plus commission sales compensation plans when there are opportunities to support all salespeople on this structure, and when there are proper metrics in place for tracking sales to ensure that the splits are fair and accurate. This civilization is known for its flat-topped monuments called temple mounds. They were made of earth and used as temples and official residences. The temple mounds were located in the central square of the city, with the huts of the townspeople built in rows around the plaza. The Mississippian people were city dwellers. The interaction between these different components in early childhood development are seen as maintained and reinforced in the school context, and this leads to distinct gender patterns of behavior and skills with direct consequences for school performance and achievement. The ultimate uses of this evidence show that biological factors, such as patterns of cognitive developments, are closely linked to social factor. This is the miracle that has enabled us to transhape our bodies, and our minds, and our words, and our pictures, and our ideas, and our teaching, and our learning around the planet ever faster, and ever cheaper. It's brought a lot of bad stuff, like the stuff that I just described, but it's also brought a lot of good stuff. A thesis is a claim that you can argue for or against. It should be something that you can present persuasively and clearly in the scope of your paper, so keep in mind the page count. If possible, your thesis should be somewhat original. The Royal Institution is an organization that has been around for 209 years. Many of the people that have worked here have been scientists themselves, including Michael Faraday. He made the discoveries that made generating and using electricity much easier, making it possible for us all to switch on lights, cook our dinner, play games, consoles, much more. In a landmark report published on Monday, the International Financial Institution called on states to reduce global emissions and bridge the development gap to avoid the effects of slow-onset climate change such as water scarcity, decreasing crop productivity, and rising sea levels. Of course, we use a lot of data to inform our decisions, but we also rely very heavily on iteration, research, testing, intuition, and human empathy. Now, sometimes the designers who work on these products are called data-driven, which is a term that totally drives us bonkers. The fact is, it would be irresponsible of us not to rigorously test our designs when so many people are counting on us to get it right. Biology is the natural science that studies life and living organisms, including their physical structure, chemical processes, physiological mechanisms, and evolution. Certain unifying concepts consolidated into a single and coherent field that recognizes genes as the basic unit of heredity, and evolution as the engine that propels creation and extinction.